Let's have a quick recap on how to use the actual Interview Pro report during an interview to help you select candidates. So we'll go to View Results, and again in this account there's 3 services active. We're just going to focus on Interview Pro. And again we can see it's Manager and Team Leader. So this was the report we would use if we were interviewing someone for a position, or a management position, or a team leader position. And as I say, if that's not the one you want, you can back up to Switch Report, change to another report design, find something that's close to the actual job role that you're interviewing for. So we'll go over here and we'll now click on View Report and click OK. And it will assemble. It takes about 10 seconds or so to assemble the actual report. And as soon as that's ready, and I'll show you how we recommend that you use the report when interviewing candidates. Now, the first thing we will say is the report is not designed to hand over to a candidate. That is not going to help them, and it's not going to help you. The report is written for the interviewer. It's for the line manager. And what we do recommend is that you would share extracts and quote sections from the report to the individual during the interview, but you wouldn't simply hand over a copy to the candidate. That would really defeat the purpose. Okay, so at the top here you'll see the details of who it's for, which report design, and when it was done. There's also a print and PDF button, so we do recommend that you can save a PDF of this report locally, and you can send that to a line manager. So you don't need to give everybody access to the control room. You can have one person who manages the control room and distributes the reports as PDF to the appropriate line manager so that they can interview the candidate. And the advantage of PDFs is, of course, you can also use them on a tablet or view them on a phone, so it's quite convenient. So there'll be an introduction and an explanation of how to use the report and what to expect. So that's, if someone's never seen this report at all, this information is usually sufficient for what they need. So you can give this to someone who hasn't had any training, and they can start to use the report in an interview. Now, unlike most personality profiling systems, PeopleMap system does not require or invite any interpretation. The report is jargon-free and written in plain English. So the first thing you're going to learn about are the gauges. Now, each report design uses a different set of gauges. There, of course, is some crossover, some are repeated. But the gauges are specific to the job role that we're looking at. So if we look at this example here, it naturally uses an authoritarian management style. So what that's telling us at 50, then this is not something they are strongly drawn to or strongly averse to. If they were scoring 90 up here, then that would give you an indication that that's their natural preference. So in this example, naturally uses a collaborative management style because of scoring 70, then that is clearly showing a preference, and their preferred management style would be described as collaborative rather than authoritarian. So again, it's important to know that when you're looking at gauges and humans, it's not about whether they can or can't, it's about their natural preferences. So if you're naturally good at making decisions at 50, it's not something they're very strong at. Can they make decisions? Yes, of course they can. Are they great at it? Would they like to do that all the time? Probably not. And that's the same with all gauges. So again, there's a lot of gauges in this particular report. What I would recommend is that you select, say, up to 5 that you feel are most important to you and this job role. They'll all be of interest to you, but the 5 allows you to set some priorities. And if you select 5 or even 3, then that can help you shortlist and create a priority. So you can give priority to those candidates that are scoring highest for the things that you have said are most important to you. And that way you know you're going to be talking to people who are likely very good at the things that matter. So for instance, if you decided that being able to prioritise tasks or planning ahead was really important to this job role, then you would give priority to people who score high for that rather than people who score low. Now, the PeopleMaps map is an advanced feature. It's the only feature that really does require training and interpretation, and it's mainly used by consultants. So if you're working with a consultant, they will understand about the map, but you can ignore it. It's not necessary for this report. And then moving on, the report then covers into the text topic. So we start with strengths and challenges. This then looks at a section on administration. Now this is a long report, I'm not going to go through the whole report, but each text topic, each section is structured in a similar way. So it tells you something about the candidate, there's some consultants' comments, and then it provides some questions that you can ask to help enhance your understanding, get a conversation going with the individual, and also what you should be looking for in their answers, and a little bit more on consultants' development advice. And each question, each area is structured in a similar way. A couple of other things worth pointing out. I'll just scroll through this now. I would certainly quote, and sorry if we go back up to the gauges, I would certainly quote some of the gauge scores to a candidate and say, for instance, okay, as a good listener, you score 70. Do you agree with that? Do you think it should be higher? Do you think it should be lower? And what you're trying to do here is get the candidate to open up and talk more and provide you with more data. Get them to relax and get them to talk about things. And you'll find that they will talk about scores, they'll talk about the report much more easily than if you asked them a direct question. So if you said to them, are you a good listener? There's only one answer to that, which is, yes, of course I am. However, when you ask this type of question, do you agree with 70? Should it be lower or higher? If they say, well, I think it might be a bit higher, then you can ask them to justify that. Can they provide any evidence that would support why they feel that way? And really you're just trying to get them to open up and think about the question more. Same with the text. If you read something here that you thought was of interest or just struck a chord, quote it back to them and say, I was reading your report here and it says, Bob will be friendly and open and will place more reliance on relationships than facts and figures. How do you feel about that, Bob? Is this something that you feel is important? So again, you can use the report, you should use the report to encourage more discussion, to go deeper. The report should be the beginning of the process, not the end of the process. And it's not here to try and trick them or catch them out. It's what you're trying to do is get them to relax and to share the data that only they have to help you make an informed decision, a decision that is the best decision for both you and for the candidate. No point giving a candidate a job that simply isn't going to be right for them. So there's a lot of responsibility comes with this. And then there's a couple other topics just to point out at the bottom. Let me just scroll down, which are quite unique to this report or Google Maps system, which is, sorry, it says a long report. Well, the first one, okay, this one here, the work environment. A very important report, a very important topic, because if you really ideally want to try and match the work environment to the individual's personality. So you can read their work environment, and it'll tell you what they prefer in a work environment, and you can decide how close that is to what you actually will be offering. If it's vastly different, then you might want to question whether this would be the right job for this candidate. It's quite a detailed report, subject to that one. The other thing to look at here is this topic, how to inspire, in this case Bob, to choose your job offers. We often get caught up in what we need from a candidate, and we sometimes forget that the candidate has their needs too. And so this will remind you of what the candidate is looking for, what will encourage them to take your job offer over your competitor's job offer. And good candidates usually have more than one offer on the table. So again, this is a good reminder to the line manager of what's important to Bob, and therefore you can try and remind Bob what you can do to meet those needs. Other thing you'll find out, most people are not very good at a traditional job interview. About 80% actually are very poor at it. There's about 20% that are really good at it. So this will tell you if the individual has a natural, how they cope with a traditional type job interview, and if it's something they're likely to be good at or not. So you can make allowances either way. So if they're really good at it, don't get too carried away with the candidate because they're a really good performer. Also, if they're not that good at coming across, don't be too harsh on them. It's maybe just that they're not that good at interviews. It will also give you some ideas as to what type of environment, what type of interview situation is likely to get them to relax and provide you with more information and data. So again, it's a very useful topic, this. A lot of candidates get hired on a good performance when possibly better candidates were rejected just because they don't perform well on the day.